Am I the jerk for how I reacted to my partner accomplishing something I've been trying to do forever? My boyfriend, a 28-year-old male, and I, a 27-year-old female, have been together for about 18 months. We recently signed a lease to move in together in 2 months. This is the first time either of us have lived with a significant other, and we are both pretty excited about it. We have different hobbies, and I will admit that he is better about showing interest in my things than I am with his. My biggest hobby is dragonflies. I am part of a non-profit organization in our state that works on studying, identifying, educating, community outreach, and conservation. Yes, huge nerd stuff, I know. My boyfriend is not nearly as interested in dragonflies as I am, but he is great about listening to and embracing my enthusiasm for them. I finally convinced him to come with me to one of our community outreach and education events this past weekend. These events are mostly geared towards children and getting them outside and interested in nature. We give them nets and turn them loose to try and catch dragonflies, then help identify them. This helps us collect data on what kind of species are in different areas. I was working the identification booth at this event and told my boyfriend he should grab a net and see if he could catch anything. He has seen me chasing dragonflies with nets before and always makes jokes about how funny I look trying to catch something that is flying erratically, so I kind of wanted to see him try. He went out into a prairie with a group and came back maybe 15 minutes later with a dragonfly in his net. He had the biggest smile on his face and was so proud when he brought it to me to identify. Seeing him embrace my hobby like that and enjoy it made my heart so happy. But when I looked at the dragonfly to identify it, I was shocked. It was a very rare species. It was so rare, in fact, that it had never been recorded in our state before, ever. This is a huge deal in the dragonfly community. It is called getting a state record, and it is something that people who study dragonflies their entire lives never achieve. Getting a state record is one of my biggest goals in dragonfly study, and he accomplished it in 15 minutes. Obviously, this became the talk of the event, and my boyfriend was getting a lot of attention from my colleagues in the nonprofit organization. Some of them made jokes to me that I should have been bringing my boyfriend to these events a long time ago. Not going to lie, it made me feel like crap. On our way home, he was still excited about it and telling me how cool it was. I tried to be excited for him too and hide how I was really feeling, but he must have picked up on it. He asked me what was wrong, and I kinda snapped at him that he just accomplished something in 15 minutes that is one of my biggest goals and something I will probably never do. He got defensive and told me that I am the one who begged him to come to this event and that I am being a jerk for making him into a bad guy simply for doing exactly what I asked him to do. I know I should just be happy for him, but I cannot bring myself to that. In my opinion, you have done some things wrong here. I totally understand why you feel hurt by this, and you're valid to be a little upset. But it wasn't your boyfriend's fault, and it's not fair to take your feelings out on him. Your attitude and behavior don't bode well for the future of your relationship. You're showing a very ugly side of yourself right now that a lot of people would consider a red flag. Hopefully, you can come to see that with time, but for now, I think you owe your boyfriend an apology. Am I the jerk for rejecting my friend's invite to lunch even though they offered to pay? I am currently studying for a Doctor of Philosophy degree. This means that even though I get paid through a scholarship and through several small projects that I am working on, I am under a student budget. I have a colleague who is approximately 35 years old and is always asking everyone in our program to go out. So far during May and June, she has invited us to 3 lunches, the theater, and a museum expo. These outings are usually on weekdays and at quite expensive places. She makes the invite weeks in advance and reaches out via WhatsApp, email, and in person. I have rejected all invites except for one lunch. I try to be very mindful of my budget and I try to be very strict with my schedule during weekdays. Given that no one is supervising how much I advance with my research, it is easy to postpone it and not move on with my work. Also, during the weekends, I try to spend time with my husband, and given that I see my colleagues all day during the week, I do not want to spend a lot of extra time with them during the weekend. The reasons why I reject my colleagues' invites are due to money, time, and other priorities. This colleague recently invited me and a group of friends to another lunch at a very fancy restaurant. I told her that I cannot attend because I am minding my budget and thanked her for the invite. She then told me not to worry and that she can pay for my bill so I can go. This is where I might be the asshole. I told her that I do not feel comfortable having a friend pay for my lunch at such a fancy and costly place. I thanked her again but said I cannot make it to the lunch. She told me that she feels rejected because every time she makes plans with the group, I say no. I pointed out that I am already going to one lunch this month and said that I am happy to chat over lunch at the kitchen in our workplace any day since I meal prep and bring my food. However, going out that often is not an option for me. She pointed out that I sometimes buy coffee instead of using the coffee maker in the center, so I am not really saving money, and therefore it must be that I do not want to spend time with her. I said that I sometimes get tired of having the same coffee and I get specialty coffees, and that I do not need to give any explanations about why I decide to spend money on coffee and not lunch. She did not say anything else, but I could tell that she was very angry. My husband said that I should just go since she would be paying, so now I am doubting if I am exaggerating. Am I the asshole? Edited to add, I do like her. We do lots of social events at work together. We travel together to conferences, share a room, commute together to social work-related events every month, and we sit together at most of these events. It is the in addition to that feels too much. I would not and do not go out with other colleagues either. It is not just her. In my opinion, you have done nothing wrong here. You have legitimate reasons for not attending, and it's important to stay true to your values and comfort levels. It isn't about not wanting to spend time in their company. You've even suggested having lunch together in your work kitchen. If your friend values your company, she will understand your position and appreciate the alternative ways to spend time together that you've suggested. Am I the jerk for not taking communion at my grandfather's funeral? My grandfather's funeral was last week. It was a somber event, but the family knew it was coming as he was very old and his health had been declining for years. I was actually able to be the last grandchild who saw him at the hospital the day before he passed away. My grandfather was a lifelong Catholic, like most of my family, and had a Catholic funeral. I was raised Catholic, but I no longer am. I converted to a non-denominational church and was even rebaptized in my mid-20s. Although I am not actively in any church now, if I ever did return to one, it would not be Catholic. I strongly disagree with the Catholic Church on matters of sexuality and the status of women. This was the first Catholic Mass I had attended in almost a decade. During the funeral, the priest announced communion. Because many non-Catholics were present, he also stated that only Catholics were allowed to take it, but non-Catholics could come up with their arms crossed over their chest for a blessing. That is what I did. I was probably the only direct family member who did so. One of my uncles, my grandfather's son-in-law, also did so, but he was never Catholic. Afterwards, we met at my grandfather's place, took some photos, and concluded a celebration of his life that we had been having over the past few days. It was a good time. I was talking to my mother later. I know it has been tough for her because she lost her mother when I was a teenager, and she was close to my grandfather. She talked about appreciating everyone being there, but then a couple of days ago, she told me she noticed me crossing my arms at communion and was a bit embarrassed. I told her the priest specifically said non-Catholics cannot take communion. My mother said I could count because I was originally baptized and raised Catholic. She said she felt embarrassed around her siblings and my grandfather's friends. I told her it is not about her, and I simply followed the rules. I also felt like I would be lying if I took communion and did not want to partake as a point of principle. I would take communion at a liberal church. My mother said that is not the point because this was an important family matter. Was I wrong? Nothing you have done here makes me think you are the jerk. You could have sat and done nothing or pretended to be Catholic, but you chose to be honest. Being baptized doesn't obligate anyone to live by a specific set of beliefs, and you did the right thing by respecting the Catholic Church's rules. Your mother might be more worried about appearances, but this shouldn't be the focus right now. Just concentrate on saying goodbye and don't engage in any unnecessary drama. Am I the jerk for not helping my parent move back to the USA from Australia? My mother, who is 60 years old, is asking me, a 29-year-old female, to drop everything and go to Australia to help her mentally and physically prepare to move back. My mother moved to Australia in 2011 when she remarried, and as a minor at 17 years old, I had no choice but to go with her. When I was 23 years old, I moved back to the United States to live the life I wanted for myself. I wanted to be in the comfort of the country I grew up in with the friends and family I knew. She was brokenhearted that I left her alone in a different country, but I expressed that I never wanted to move and had no legal choice in the matter because of my age and lack of father, deceased. Fast forward to last year, my stepfather was diagnosed with cancer and died soon after. Since his death, his 2 sons, sister, and the rest of his family have been playing games with my mother, taking her to court over the money, and pretty much just being vultures over his belongings. They would drunk call her, show up unannounced, harass her on social media to the point of the cops getting involved, and have taken her dog and won't give him back. My side of this is that I have severe anxiety and do not travel well, especially on a 17-hour flight. I cannot afford to take off work. I did not make the choice to move to a different country for any reason and shouldn't be expected to help move. I have spoken to my mother about this because she gave me money for a ticket for a future date that I tried to give back to her. I told her that I cannot take as much time off work as she is expecting and that I don't travel well anymore because my anxiety has gotten much worse and has evolved into full-blown panic attacks on flights as short as 2 hours or vomiting before a drive into the city. She said something along the lines of, if you can only take a week then, you may as well not even come because that's not enough time. So I thought I was in the clear as we left it at that. I assume she's forgotten that conversation because 2 days ago she said, "Can you look at the price of tickets for a month from the 10th because I need you?" Now I don't know what to do because I don't want to have this conversation again as I just got a guilt trip the first time, and I'm not good with confrontation. I don't want to feel bad about my choice not to help my mother, but I feel like it's asking a lot. Am I the asshole? It sounds like your mother is going through a very rough time with the death of her spouse and all the accompanying issues with in-laws. It's natural for her to have reached out for support, but it's also important to acknowledge that she seems to be ignoring what you say and just pushing for what she wants. You offered to endure that flight and stay a week, yet she dismissed that offer. Ultimately, it's your call whether or not to go, but this will certainly impact your relationship moving forward. Am I the jerk for not allowing my parent to invite their friends to my wedding? My fiancé and I are getting married in November. We have been planning our wedding for nearly a year now. Throughout the planning process, my mother has been absent at best when it came to helping. She always claimed to want to help but would book events for her business on the dates we would agree to meet to work on planning or trying on suits for me. We got her to meet for dress shopping for the mothers, but that became a disaster since when we got there, my mother refused to try on any dresses. My mother has been firmly saying that her responsibility is the rehearsal dinner. She states that putting this event on is the groom's family's job. My future mother-in-law has been very involved in the wedding planning. She has supported me throughout the last couple of months, helped us understand and make important decisions, and assisted with suit shopping. She even cried during suit shopping. About 2 weeks ago, my mother started talking to us about our rehearsal dinner and how it is the groom's family's job to pay for it. We were unbelievably appreciative of this and had suggested some cheaper options, but she decided to do it at a very upscale local restaurant. While going over the guest list with my fiancé, we became aware that one of my brothers is bringing a date. My fiancé informed my mother that we aren't doing +1s for people, so we needed to know who this person is. My mother then said that etiquette states that everyone gets a +1. We aren't doing that, as we're paying for our own wedding with some financial help from my fiancé's parents, but not a lot, and so we want to keep the cost down. My mother then asked which of her friends were invited. My fiancé asked which ones she gave us contact information for when we needed that earlier this year to save the dates. She responded with none. She only gave addresses for family. My own mother was excluding me from this conversation, so my fiancé finally said that my mother needed to speak with me about this as she was at work and busy. My mother got very upset. Fast forward to this week, my mother is now refusing to tell us who she's inviting. She is now disregarding our wishes on how the rehearsal dinner will be planned and demanding to see our guest list and all their contact information. We are refusing to give it to her. Tonight, she blew up on us in a group chat that also included my future mother-in-law and father. She now refuses to help with the wedding at all and personally attacked my future mother-in-law. So, am I the asshole for now refusing to let her invite any friends? And would I be the asshole if I decide to uninvite her? You did nothing wrong here. Maybe go no contact for a bit and let her think about it. When you do get back in touch, tell her that if she wants to continue being included in your wedding and in your future, she needs to back off and start respecting your wishes. She is acting like a child, so you have no choice but to respond accordingly. You are an adult and about to be married, so your mother no longer gets to dictate anything to you. Am I the jerk for calling out people in a bar for how they were talking? This past weekend, my boyfriend, who is a 28-year-old man, and I, a 25-year-old woman, went to visit his mother on her birthday. My boyfriend's father passed away last fall, less than a year after he retired. For the past few years, my boyfriend's parents had been planning and building their retirement home on a lake in a rural part of our state. His father passed away about 4 months after they moved into the house, so now it is just his mother living there. He visits her a lot on weekends, but due to my work schedule, I am not able to go with him very often. We wanted to take her out for a meal to celebrate her birthday, but there are not a lot of options nearby. Mostly just bars, but they have decent enough burgers. The place we went to was pretty empty for a Saturday night, so we could hear everything that other people were saying. There was a group of younger guys sitting at the bar being kind of obnoxious. We tried to ignore them, but then they started saying some pretty terrible things. I believe that you need to call people out for such behavior. They need to know that what they are saying is not acceptable. I yelled over to them to at least keep it down and to themselves if they are going to talk like that. They yelled back and told me to F off before the bartender told them to leave. The bartender came over and apologized to us and offered to comp our drinks. It never came up again until my boyfriend and I were on our way home. He scolded me for confronting the guys at the bar and asked me what I was thinking. I told him that he knows how I feel about people talking like that and how they need to be called out for it, and told it is not okay, no matter what. He told me that I am not the one who has to live near those people, and now he is even more worried about his mother since she is living there alone. He told me that what I did was stupid and reckless. Even though he agrees with the sentiment, it was a dumb thing to do because you never know what someone is capable of. He told me that he is already worried about his mother living by herself, and what I did just made it 100 times worse. I apologized and tried to reassure him that his mother will be fine. He said, yeah, no thanks to you, which really hurt, and we did not speak for the rest of the drive. We are supposed to go up there with his siblings for the 4th of July, and he told me he is not sure if he wants me to come with him anymore. I reminded him that I specifically took work off that weekend so I could go with him. He told me that is why he is telling me now, in case I need to make arrangements or other plans. I asked him if this is because of what happened at the bar, and he told me yes. I told him that being silent like that is just as bad as being complicit in what those guys were saying. He told me that his main concern is his mother, not what some jackasses at a bar are talking about, and that all I had to do was ignore it. In my opinion, you have done some things wrong here. Antagonizing drunk people out in the sticks is not a great idea, and your BF is right to be concerned. Instead of shouting across the bar, the first option should have been to speak to the manager or bartender. It's simply not worth getting into a physical altercation because you don't like what someone is saying. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.